Are you trying to make a two-part or a one-part dot?
One part. I know how to do the two part. I just can't do the one part. Every time I try to bend over my but I know I don't have as much upper arm strength as I used to. It doesn't bend.
It doesn't bend?
You're
not pushing hard enough? Because you're scared you're going to break it?
Okay, now what are we making?
Because I'm not pushing as hard as you think I am. Like for when you say upper body strength, right? I'm not using as much upper body strength as you think I'm using to get that to arch over. It literally is that once you start, something in your mind says this thing's going to pop off.
Yep, break off.
And I'm going to have to start over.
Yeah.
So it don't go nowhere. You have got to push past that and push it enough to get the arch. Once it starts, you'll bring it back down.
What are we making right now?
Open bottom bottle so that you can alter. Now, how wide you make your bottom or your opening determines how much of an alteration you can do. You can do surface alteration on forms from the outside, right? What I'm going to show you is how to do an alteration from the inside.
Okay.
So I want to make sure that when I open this form, I open it wide enough that I can get my hand into it. Okay. I'm going to treat it just like any other bottle. The only difference is when I open this guy, I'm going to, number one, make my hole so it's all the way to the wheel head. Same thing I did with the donut.
And this is also 2.5 pounds of clay.
This is 2 pounds.
This is 2 pounds.
This is 2 pounds.
Because they're open in the boxes and everything. Bill said that has to be specially done.
Well, they are electricians.
They are, okay.
Yes.
All right.
So they
Oh.
know what
They just don't want to lose all of them, you know?
No.
Sorry.
You know where to go? Take a picture.
You spend a lot of time preparing your blanket.
Yes.
That's very important.
Yes. You will have people, if you have ever gone on YouTube and you look at somebody's videos and they're like, okay, I am close to being sent. And they open it up. If they take that finished form and they put it on the wheel and it's spinning around, it's slightly off, right? Because they started off. Usually when I look at people's videos and they have the camera set up and I'm waiting for the wiggle to stop. If I don't see the wiggle stop, I'm like, you can't show me nothing because you're not even centered. You're not centered to show me anything. And it may be, for years, that may be your aesthetic. You like things a little wonky, you like them a little off. Visually, they look straight. They're not straight. And so you prepping at the beginning to make sure that you get your piece centered and that it's not rocking or moving, it just makes for you. I don't know. I just had teachers who were not. It wasn't that they were not nice teachers, but they were very firm, and they believe in the artist or the artisticness of craft. That craft just doesn't have to be this wonky thing and look what I made and I stuck a rainbow on the side and it's just beautiful. They literally are about form and functionality. And so that's how I was taught. So you'll notice I'm wide to narrow. Okay? So when I'm throwing a bottle, regardless of the size of the bottle, regardless of the shape of the bottle, I always want, from the minute I open that bottle up, you should be throwing it like it's a volcano. You should not be throwing it like it's a bowl You shouldn't be throwing it straight up like a cylinder. You should be throwing it like this, like a volcano, because that keeps, number one, your neck close for when you get ready to pull it out. So instead of you spending so much time and realizing, okay, these two are never going to meet for me to pull it up. If you're already in this position, I can then shape this however I want, but I got to keep this area close. And if I find myself, like I'm off right now, right? It's not going to stop me from opening my form. I'm going to open, and you see I'm still off. But before I open any more, I now got to get myself back on center. I'm going to slow my wheel down and change position on how I'm opening, because I need for that opening to be big enough for my hand to get in. So I don't have a bottom, I don't have to worry about compressions. But at this point, when I open, my base right down here cannot be thin. It cannot be thin. You cannot have a wall like this on the bottom. It's got to be nice and chunky for you to do your pulls. If it's thin, what ends up happening is when you do that first pull, you pull the whole thing off because you don't have enough of a connection. So you want to make sure you leave that nice and thick. And then I treat it like I do everything else.
That's because there's no base inside, is
There's
that
no
why?
base. Yes, it's because there's no base on the inside.
And you're still keeping that pyramid shape.
Yes, that's my volcano.
Yes, I mean volcano shape.
You guys have got to make your pulls count. What I mean by that is that if you're doing a pull and in your head you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That pull should be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. It should feel like forever. That is how you know you are getting a good pull. If you pull really fast and it didn't go nowhere, like you're looking at it, you're like, hey, I didn't get that much height. Go in, apply a little bit more pressure, and then slow down. You have to make what we call, or what my professor used to say, is make your pulls count.
Whenever I try to apply a little more pressure and go slow, I wind up getting too thin in the middle or somewhere in there. There's a big
That is
thin
because
dent in
you
it.
are pinching and you are not pulling. And there's a difference. So pinching is a continuous motion of us pinching as we're going up. When you are pulling, you are literally locking the tension in your fingers and you're not pinching. It literally is a stiffening of the hands. You're holding in a position that clay has no choice but to go up.
Go up.
You're stretching particles versus, like if I squeeze this right now, it has no choice but to go up.
Right.
Right? That's not a pull though. Just because I see it move up because I'm pinching it, that's not a pull. A pull is literally the action of stretching out clay particles. As I'm pulling them, I'm stretching them up. Every time you do a pull, you are pulling clay from the bottom of the piece. If you wonder, well, I got this tall, my bottom is real thin. That's where you're pulling your clay from. Your clay comes from the bottom. If anybody ever tells you the clay comes from the side, it does not. Because you can pull a piece, I can put 10 pounds and I can continue to pull as tall as I want. I'm not gonna have a bottom because that's where the clay comes from. Clay is actually being pulled from the bottom and then up the side. So when people say I threw out my bottom, that means they pulled so much that they don't have a bottom. Then they have to go slab one on. Okay? So you want to make sure that you know that for every pull that you do, that clay is coming from the bottom. But because I don't have a bottom on this,
I didn't know when you pulled all that you can really pull from the bottom.
you should be looking at the consistency of your pull. If your pull is thick, thin, thick,
That's
thin,
what happens to me.
that is because you are pinching. It's like you're doing a pull and you're pinching and then you readjust your fingers and you pull a little bit more. You readjust your
I'm
fingers.
kind of going like this.
Instead of locking your wrist and locking your hand in position, you see how my elbows are near my body? I'm over the piece. If you see anybody throwing like this, it ain't gonna never happen because they're too far away. You need to stabilize your elbows. So sometimes you'll hear me tell somebody in the class, hey, put your elbows on your thighs and press down. That's to stabilize your wrists. That's because you're moving too much. If you move, the clay's gonna move. So you got to make sure that when I say your core has to be tight, every time I get ready to do a pull, I squeeze my stomach. I'm squeezing the splash pan. These are near my body. Hand in position. You see how I can't move that much?
And you want it not to be able to move that much.
Yes, you want to be not able to move that much while you're doing your pull. Now, as it gets taller, you got to readjust, right? Your hands got to go in, or your hands got to go in. But I try to keep this near my body as I'm coming up.
So what is the trick to making sure that you have a volcano instead of a regular cylinder?
When you are doing that very first pull, or even if you haven't mastered the first pull and you're doing, your regular pull, you have just literally, you've got to move your hand to the center. That gives you a volcano.
Okay.
When I do that pull, my hand moves at a diagonal to the
straight
center.
up, not straight
If
up.
you're going straight
Okay.
up, it's
Move
going
toward
to
the
always
center.
be a cylinder.
Straight up, yeah.
Right?
Okay.
But if you want the volcano, you've got to move into the center to keep that tapered at the top.
That makes sense.
I'm gonna do one more pull. This is not gonna be a big pull. But I know that right now, from the thickness I had to the thickness I have, this is going to be my last pull. Do we have a sponge on a stick?
I have some right there.
Miss Diane said, I made me one.
We all have what we need, right?
Yeah. And I want to make sure I get the moisture out. If you don't have a sponge on a stick, that doesn't mean you can't get the moisture out. That just means you have to soak your hand, get it nice and slick with clay. This, and go straight in. And let the clay kind of hug around, clean up the inside, and then gently pull your hand back out.
So where did you go to school?
I did have some really good teachers. For my undergrad, I went to Augusta State University.
Really?
And for my graduate degree, I went to Georgia State University.
Alrighty then.
I have heard that they have good classes.
Georgia or Augusta?
Georgia.
You know what else I heard a few years ago, and I don't know if it's true still, that if you're over a certain age,
You can get a degree for free. It's absolutely
you can
true
come in and
the
take
state of
classes
Georgia.
for free.
Yes,
Yeah.
you can get a degree for
But what
free.
if you don't want a degree? You just want to come in and
You
take some
can.
classes. You can
You
do
can.
that.
The senior
Yeah.
citizens are allowed at any state-funded university to go in and take classes for free and get a degree if they want.
Okay.
It's like people will say, oh well, like people working at the school, not teachers, but not professors, but like groundskeepers, things like that. Because they're an employee, they can actually get a degree for free, but they can only get a degree in what they do.
Yeah.
You know.
But if you're a senior and you want to go, you can get a degree in anything you want if you don't work there.
As a senior,
Yeah.
you can take classes for free. You can get a degree for free.
In anything. Oh, okay. Okay. Okay.
Unless they've changed it. Back in the day, most seniors who, you know, did what they wanted to do and they wanted to come back and get a different degree, you could do that.
I looked
Did you
into
ever
it.
have them in your classes?
Seniors?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I've had teachers in my classes, teachers who were much older than me, and they would be like, I mean, they were bold with it. They would come in and they'd see my little face, and they'd be like, I just want to let you know you can't teach me nothing.
Oh,
I'm
man.
here because of a requirement. So then I start throwing out lingo. And they're like, what does that mean? What does that mean? I go, oh, so you can learn. I can teach you something. And then they'd be like, touche. I'm like, you're a teacher. You should know better. So
I wanted to say, you know, I looked into it and actually started the application process for Georgia State. And what I found out is that we take classes that would be space available.
Yes.
So they, after you register, I mean, they won't let you register for your class until 7 days before the class starts.
Yes.
So there has to be room.
Yes,
And
because
then
you
you take
want
the class.
because you have your paying students who are going for that
Right.
degree.
They've got to let
And
them
yes,
You
have
got
first preference.
You got revenue passengers.
Exactly.
Yes.
Just like
Yes.
Yes, that's
we
right.
get to seats that are left
Okay,
over.
that's right.
Yeah.
You get to go
Stand by.
non-rev.
Yes.
You get to go
And this is
non-rev.
65 over?
I think it's
62.
Yeah, I think
maybe
it's
62 because I'm 69. I just don't remember, but I got tired. At the time, I had not had my knee replacement surgery, and I was concerned about walking from the parking lot all the way to classes, so I let it go. But they were real, you know.
Yeah, seniors are there. They get
Yeah.
there and honey, they take their classes and they get to know the staff, they get to know who's running the program, and then it's a case of literally once they got their foot in the door and they know, it's a case of reaching out to the either the faculty members to see, hey, you know, Miranda, I've been taking you for a year now. Your class is booked up. Is there a way for me to get in? Yeah, come on.
There you go.
We'll fit you in. Or being able to
Especially if you
contact
just audited.
department heads and
Yeah.
being like, do you have any space in any class? Oh yeah, we can fit you in because they know your face.
Yeah.
And they
yeah.
know
And
you're
they're
not
serious
Yes,
about
they
coming.
know you're not coming to play around.
Right.
You're not
Right.
disrupting what
Yeah.
they're doing by teaching.
Yeah.
You want to learn. And
Yeah.
so yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to call her in. Because I need to keep that mouth close.
And again, you're starting from all the way at the bottom, coming all
So
the
is
way
that
up.
the same way you do a goblet, a wine goblet? Like when you're doing it in one piece?
No.
Oh.
This is if I were doing a 2-part, and this was going to be, you know,
Diane just fooled me. She told me I would be able to do that.
No, if it's a bottle, you can put it on top of the bottle top. Come on.
Diane fooled me. She had me all
Right there, so
excited.
you're gonna put your.
she's saying
cup
that
up
if
there.
you put a bowl up here, you would have that
Yeah.
2-part goblet.
Yeah. See, I was thinking that part that's open at the bottom would be the goblet,
No.
and then you just close it at the top and make that the
And turn it
stand.
upside down.
thin.
Yeah.
You talking about?
Yeah, make that the
You're
stand.
talking about coming underneath.
Uh-huh.
Oh no. Oh no. No.
You'd have to close it first and then open, right?
You would, but
But she's already at the mat.
but the thing
it's
of it,
open at the bottom.
it is open at the bottom, but the problem is when you get ready to close it, when you flip that over, you're gonna have a twist on the inside from where you have squeezed it closed. So it's not gonna be a smooth transition. So then you have to work on smoothing that out on the inside.
Okay, I just wondered.
So I forgot something. I'm gonna go right back in.
I was having you bring it in and then
Flip
stop
it
there
over.
and then put a bowl right on top of the thin part. That way it's open, so it's light. You've got your thinner
Now,
part up
when
at
you
the
put
top,
your
so you
hand
don't
in,
have
it
to
just
carve in
opened
so
right
much.
back up.
Because my hand is slick. It's got clay on it. There's
Yeah.
no resistance, so it's
Yeah.
right in there.
You get that or no?
So what I want to do,
You learn.
I can tell.
As a teacher, you know, I was an old teacher. I used to could tell when my students go, oh, okay.
You
I think you didn't get it.
No, I can't hear. I can't hear what she's saying.
She's not saying anything.
She was saying, "I'm gonna go." I didn't hear the last part.
Okay, well, it's more than one
Come on,
person.
come on, let her speak,
Come on.
please.
You gonna have an hour's worth of video? Some of this you gotta be able to remember.
She won't even stop.
This is why y'all been friends for so long.
That's why I'm gonna get her when we
Now,
get out of here.
why are you in there again?
Because I'm going to shape. I'm going to shape before I pull my neck.
Okay.
So I already have a shape to start. And none of that changes. It would be the same as if I had a bottom on the inside.
You using just your fingers?
Just my fingers.
Oh wow.
And the camera inside.
I rarely use tools to shape with. I will occasionally have students who will, they like to use the rib on rib. And that's okay, but I am just very old school in that you can't feel the clay and what it's doing if you ain't touching it. And so sometimes that's warranted, but for the most part, you'll probably always see me use my hands. I'm coming above the base, right? Because I don't want to push that base out.
Mm-hmm. And when you're coming up, you're using just 2 fingers?
My middle finger does all the work. See
Oh,
that?
just that one finger. Okay.
That does all the work.
Okay.
I always say these are the bodyguards because they stabilize.
Yeah, yeah.
So they're going to curve, whatever they're going to do, these are the bodyguards. They stabilize that middle finger. My middle finger does everything because I can reach with it. If you want to look down on the inside of that so you can see what that looks like.
Oh, what? It's nice and clean in there too.
Now see, you showed me how to open up that part with a rib. And I've been using a rib ever since.
Open up what part?
Like once I
Or
had
curving,
a tall,
shaping, you can. So what I do with my hand is you'll see me going with my hand, especially when I'm working with bowls. I'll go in and I lay a blueprint because clay has a memory. So if I already give myself a curve, the clay remembers it's on a curve. I want to push it out further than that. I use a rib and not my fingers. You'll see me use that curved part of the rib because then I can flex it out like it's an attachment to my thumb, and just push it out in there and get a really beautiful curve on a bowl. So yes, but I'm saying you have some people who literally, when it comes to shaping, they don't touch the clay at all. They have a rib in this hand and a rib in this hand, and that's how they shape. I don't do that. I want to make sure that I touch. So I'm just going to clean up my profile just a little bit.
Another thing I was wondering about, your hands seem to me to have a lot of slip on them when you are pulling. And I heard you say in the past that the slip adds weight to the wall of the body.
Slip adds weight to the...
You need your phone?
No, that's my alarm going off.
Because sometimes when I'm pulling,
Yes, because it ain't going to stop.
sometimes when I'm pulling, especially if I have to stop because my hands have gotten too.
Because, you have all of this in your bucket. Eventually, this turns into a kind of like a soupy slip, right? It's no longer as free as water.
Right.
And you see me, my hands are always, I try to make sure my hands are covered. When you are throwing that way, what ends up happening is that you're pulling and you're shaping and you are making your form, but you're not cleaning the excess clay that you put on off. So when you see me shape, it'll be nice and slick, but you see how I just cleaned it up?
Yeah.
Because I don't want that sitting on there,
Okay.
because now I'm only focused on this part of it.
Okay.
I don't need this to buckle and collapse. And so if you see yourself, especially if your base is here and you're out here and you've not done any cleanup to tighten that's when you get the slumps. That's when it collapses. So I always try to make sure that I go in and I clean up as I'm moving along. Don't worry about the buckle.
See, that's where I would have stopped. I'd have said, "Oh hell," and that would have been the end for me.
Straighten back out.
Waiting for her to come and fix it.
That works too.
Yeah, that works.
I didn't realize you can fix stuff as well.
That's a buckle. This is a buckle instead of a twist.
And the buckle can be fixed easier than a twist?
Sometimes, like my thing is when I'm working on bottles, I know I'm gonna buckle. Everybody buckles. There's nobody that does not buckle when they get to the neck, right? When you twist something, when the piece physically is twisted, that is difficult to come out of because you now have to try to fix the twist before you can throw. A buckle, you can cut away. The clay's gonna remember it still has a little bit there, but you can get rid of a buckle. So because I cut that off, I'm gonna come into the shoulder part of this bottle, and I'm gonna do another.
Why did it buckle?
It's
Fast? Too much?
It's not too fast. It's the distance between where you want to bring it in at, right? But when you're thick and you're buckling, you can manage that better than when you're thin and you're buckling, right? So I'm gonna bring this guy in. I got that little buckle, and I'm not worried about that buckle. Now I'm gonna take my middle finger, left hand. My middle finger, when I put it in, it's stopping right here. So it's hugging this curve. I'm going to do a pull.
It's right at the shoulder.
Yep. And I'm stretching my neck up.
You have to have clay to do that.
You do.
Yeah.
You have to have clay.
And if that bottom was closed, that would be a nice little whiskey jug.
It is, but it's still going to be a nice little whiskey jug.
Yeah,
It's just going to be altered.
You don't just
I don't understand.
I'm
Okay,
gonna-
you gonna put
Okay.
a bottom on it.
Huh.
You can put a bottom on it.
When you say alter, what does that mean?
Alterations literally mean you're changing the shape. You are changing the shape of it.
Okay.
And there are some things you can't do on the wheel as far as alteration. If I wanted this to appear to be a puffy bottle and get a quilted look, I can't do that while I'm throwing on the wheel. I literally
Yeah.
got to go in and push areas out, push areas in. I got to use a tool to make my lines first. That's an alteration.
Yep. That's where the hand building comes in.
So I'm moving that line up because I'm going to push in a little firmer around the neck and get that clay to go up. So I'm pulling my neck.
You know, when I made the last bottle that I made, I had some olive oil thingies, you know, those little stoppers that you can put in.
Yes.
And so if you're aware of the thickness of it, it didn't go all the way down in because I didn't plant it at first. But that also makes a nice little bottle.
Yes.
Like for oil and vinegar.
And so now my inside fingertip is higher than my outside fingertip. I'm going to do another pull. Nice and slow. I'm not worried about
So your outside finger was higher this time than your inside finger.
my inside finger is always higher.
Oh, okay. I thought you just said your outside finger
I
was
said
higher.
my inside finger is higher than my outside.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Now, when I was down here hugging that curve, my outside was, right? Because I'm hugging that curve.
Yeah.
But now that I'm shorter,
Yeah.
I want to make sure I'm able to get a pull.
Right,
And when we do a
right.
pull, on the inside, our hand should be higher.
Right.
Every single time because you have a base on the inside and you don't have one on the outside. You literally start pulling in this position. That position should be maintained for a nice pull. If they meet, you thin out because your finger's doing this.
See, that's
and
one
you're
of
trying to
that's
tighten
one
your
thing that
hands up.
happens. I get
They
to
should not
meeting in
meet.
there.
They
Okay.
shouldn't meet. Your
Okay.
outside hand should not beat your inside hand out. You did not do that pull properly. It's always that inside hand is out first. So now I really wanna close this guy just a little bit more. Anybody have a paintbrush? Ooh, you have one, Miss Diane.
Does that do the base?
Do you have a thicker one?
A little bit
This
thicker.
one right here. This one will work. And so this, when you want a neck on something to be really tall, this replaces your finger. It could be a wooden dowel. It could be back of a tool. As long as it is round, you are replacing it with your finger.
Why did you need the brush instead of the point tool?
Because the brush is
Wood?
No, the metal would work too,
Okay.
but the brush is longer. So that way I don't have to worry about how far I got to go in. I just know as long as I clear my mouth and this,
Yeah, okay.
we're good.
And that's to make the neck longer.
Yes.
So in this case, you really can't have the inside above the outside. They're kind of,
What do you mean?
well, you would put your fingers inside. The inside finger would be above the outside finger. But when you have a solid stick and you're working,
That doesn't matter.
you're still,
Because you're not pulling,
are you,
right?
I'm still pulling.
Oh, you
Yeah.
were pulling?
I'm pulling.
But
I'm
it-
just replacing my finger with this.
but how do you keep it above the outside finger? I guess that's what I'm asking.
It doesn't matter.
Okay,
When you're using a tool and it's in there, this does not matter.
okay.
All it is doing, because at this point I'm not in a curve. I'm straight now. This is against the wall.
Okay,
So this doesn't matter. As long as I'm using it to push in and up,
That's kind of like using a rib.
kind of like using a rib. I like to puff out the top of my little bottles.
It's amazing you still have that much clay
Mm-hmm.
on top.
were you cognizant of that as you were pulling the whole bottle?
Yes, ma'am.
Leaving the clay up there?
Yes, ma'am. Because you know when you're making a bottle, you're going to need it. You should always leave your, so anytime you're throwing something in the realm of vase, bottle, pot, you then refer to anatomy like the human body. You have a mouth, you have a neck, you have shoulders, you have a belly. That's the anatomy of any pot. Belly, shoulder, neck, mouth. Okay? So, knowing what it takes to get that clay close, you're going to be a little thicker on the top because that's for you to play with. Otherwise, say I fell short and I didn't have enough clay. That just means this nice swell that I have here is just going to start lower. I'm going to get that clay from somewhere. I'm going to get it. It's got to come from somewhere. So that just means my bottle's not, I don't have as much belly as I would. I would cut that back so that I know I have that to play with. Getting rid of the excess. You don't want that slip sitting on there. And because I know I'm not thick anymore at the bottom, I am literally just cutting away the bare minimum. If I want this bottle to go in on the outside, if I wanted it to taper in more, I would have opened it smaller. But at this point, I want to show you alteration. So my hand has got to get up in there. And so it's a case I could dart at the bottom, which is just taking little triangles out of the bottom and scoring and attaching them. And that's going to narrow me in if I choose to do so after my alterations. And then as always, I like to puff out my pieces just to make sure I've got it expanded as much as I want it to be expanded.
How'd that little spot get on there?
My shirt, my glasses,
Oh,
but it's okay. Everything can be taken care of.
this is a really good lesson for me because when I mess up, I'm always balling that clay up and I'm through with it. So now I'm seeing that there are a lot of times you can fix it.
Yeah, my top's a little off because my glasses hit it, but we're gonna work with it. Yeah, that's I'll tell anybody that I don't This is the thing about me. If you like, if we use Miss Lisa as an example, with her casserole dishes, and them having the crack down the center. And if I was teaching collegiately, they wouldn't make it. Because I tell her to throw them in the trash and do them again. We're not in that environment. So I'm gonna wipe my mouth. Had me on video looking like
I was gonna say I got you on video.
Is that's gonna drive me crazy. The problem is that it's when people have let something get too hard and there's no way to fix it. You can rehydrate it and try to take care of it then, but at some point the clay it's never going to come out like you want it to. So when I was at Abernathy, you'd have a bunch of students, they'd come and they'd have bowls like as big as this. Oh, but I messed up my bottom, so I cut my bottom. What do you want to do with it? Oh, I'm gonna make it into a berry bowl. And I just look at them and they go, you want me to throw it in the trash? Yes, throw it in the trash. What are we doing here? Because think about it. If you try to save stuff that really shouldn't be saved, you are wasting so much time trying to save one piece when you could have already thrown 2 or 3 that were better than the one you ever started with. So I tell students that all the time. Everything doesn't have to be saved. You can throw stuff in the trash. But if you think you worked hard on it, it's not my place to say, don't do it. Yeah. Like for her thing is, Miranda, I'm going to fire them even though they have the crack, and I'm going to use them as planters. That's going to be my drainage. See, that's a quick fix. Yeah. But you have people who be like, oh, I need to figure out how to take the bottom out. If we're doing all of that, you might as well throw them again.
Good idea.
You know?
That is a good idea.
And a lot of students will. I'm like, you can make it into a planter. There's nothing to stop you from making it into a planter. You already got a drainage point. But know that if you make it again, it's going to be 10 times better than when you first started. Okay? If you...
What do you need?
I need a board.
I don't know that there are.
Those are boards?
Yes. And I'm not worried about my spout. Like if that spout bothers you, like you're like, oh my God, you just because most people
flask to me.
Because most people will come back in.
Oh.
I like those shoulders sticking out there.
But I still have flat on the sides, right? But I've got this to work with just a little bit. But once it stiffens up, I can lay marks and get my hand up in there and do what I need to do. Okay? So I'm going to move this over to one side and I'm going to do one more alteration. You set that up for me. Thank you. You said, Diane, you wanted what is it you wanted?
Facets.
Faceting.